I want to talk to you about growing your service businesses. You know, if you're growing a services company, one of the biggest challenges you have is staffing. How do you find the right people? The people that are going to show up reliably and do a good job and don't need to be managed so closely that it takes up all your time. Now, when you find those people, how are you going to keep them busy? How are you going to make sure that you're using them productively, that they're more than covering the costs that they have and generating extra revenue for the company? That's why I say the second biggest challenge for you if you own a service businesses is the growing your sales. How do you generate more sales volume? And for you, this means two things, right? How do you generate leads and how do you convert those leads into paying clients? And when we're working with the service-based businesses, one of the things we find is generally it kind of happens with it's kind of like my sister Lori. When she drives a car, she's got one foot on the gas, one foot on the brakes, and it's kind of a herky-jerky feeling. Like your neck is getting whiplash when you're driving with her. Really nice woman, but a horrible driver. Most business owners are really nice people that own service businesses. They have to. I mean, it tends to appeal to those people, yet they tend to be pretty poor business owners. What happens is they are having a lot of downtime. So they go out and rush around, do lead generation and marketing. They find new jobs for them to take on. And then they're so busy in the mix of doing and producing on that work that they stop doing their lead generation and their selling efforts. And what happens is they go through these periods of boom or bust. It's feast or famine. Can you relate to that? You have all this business coming in a big flood and you're scrambling, working nights and weekends to get the jobs done, and then you might have a period of time that there's no food on the table. One of the most important things that we work with a service-based business owner is how do you moderate that through? One of the most important keys I can share with you is that you can't just do your sales and marketing. You can't just do your lead generation or your lead conversion when you need business. You've got to actually have a reliable system that does those things with an intelligent control that you can see that you're getting the results that you want in that area, that you can actually visually track on those scorecards coming through. And then once you've got those lead generation system and your lead conversion systems, can you scale it? Coming back in here, you know, is it responsible of you, the owner, to do all the lead generation, to do all the lead conversion? If that's the case, that's not likely going to be a scalable process. Why? Because you're going to be maxed out production-wise. You're going to hit a point that's a ceiling that you can't get beyond. So how do you blow through that point so that it's not just reliant on you? You do that by building a scalable system under the lead generation or lead conversion. And we do this all the time for clients. I'm thinking one of our clients we work with, his name's Brian. You know, we helped him build out an actual lead conversion system for him with a sales team. He actually never had other outside salespeople selling for him. You know, how do you do that? How do you deal with lead management? How do you deal with incentivizing and compensation plans for your salespeople? How do you train, select, hire, and manage your salespeople to make sure they're doing the right things? And how do you monitor the whole process to make sure it really is making financial sense? You know, he doubled his sales within the first 12 months of us working together. Part of the reason for it was he created better systems for generating leads and converting leads into paid clients for himself. Now, once you've done that and you've been able to create that, now you've got to look at the cash flow side, the financial pillar of your company. It's been my experience of working with, and let's look at this way, the Maui community. We've worked with over 250,000 different business owners. And I'd probably say that the second or third most common type of business category that we work with is probably a service-based business. We've worked literally with thousands, if not tens of thousands, of service-based business owners. And as a rule, in general, they tend to be pretty poor at managing the financial pillar of their company. Oftentimes, it's just them or spouse or a part-time bookkeeper doing that part of it. You know, I'm thinking one of the business owners we work with, she set up her own QuickBooks chart of accounts, had a part-time bookkeeper who did this, but here she was, she'd grown to 4 locations, has been financially, you know, generating over $1 million a year in revenue, yet she had never gone back and upgraded the infrastructure that she had from a financial standpoint. The QuickBooks stuff that she had set up years ago was no longer satisfactory to help her do what she would want to do. She'd spend hours every week pulling information out of QuickBooks, playing it through spreadsheets to get information that if she had just set QuickBooks up properly, she could have pulled it as a memorized report. So how do you manage cash flow? Critical issue for you as a service-based business. Most important of all there is, how are you at the collection practices? How good are you at timely collecting on the receivables that you're owed? Have you ever sat down and systematically crafted through your system for collecting on your receivable? Tammy, one of the business owners that we work with in our coaching program, her and her husband own a carpet company, a flooring company, pardon me. They do more than just carpet. They also do hardwood floors and tile and other types of flooring. But one of their biggest challenges has been that as they've gone less for the commercial world and they started to grow their retail side of their business for their store and people coming in and so forth, their collection practices have been a real issue. It's hurt them cash flow. And before we started working together, they might have been having 90 days of a collection cycle. How do you reduce that down to 60 days, 30 days, even less than 30 days? That's one of the most important things that we've worked to help them to do. Once you've got that and you start growing that service-based business past the point where you're the one controlling everything, how do you start building in those financial controls to make sure you protect inventory and cash and to make sure there's no misbehavior going on by any of your staff members? It's quite important. How do you make sure that tools and other pieces of the trade don't go missing with that? The financial controls is quite important for you as well. Now I want to ask you the most important question of all. This is the one that probably is going to get you in the gut, and I'm sorry I have to do it. And the reason is because I care enough about you that I don't want you and your family to have a bad situation happen simply because you refuse to look at the reality. We call this the hit by a bus test. Be honest here, brutally honest about you and your business. If you were hit by a bus later today, and I'm hopeful that it's never going to happen, but if you were, what would happen to your business? Do you know that over, I'd say probably 90% of the business owners I talk with, that their company would literally fold within 30 days or less if they were hit by a bus and couldn't work to produce in the company? Think about that. There literally would be nothing left. They've spent all these years building a business. There would be nothing left for them, nothing left for their family, nothing left for their employees, let alone the customers and vendors that count on you to be there in business. One of the things that's so important when we work together is we want to help you to build a business, not just to own a job. And building a business means that you take the business and consistently make it less reliant upon you. You don't just replace yourself with the one-legged pillar of team, but you do it by replacing yourself with team plus the systems and the controls, the intelligent business controls. And on the three legs of that stool, now you have a stable, scalable business that you can grow higher and higher levels of revenue and handle that. You know, and this is not common sense. And if you don't have that at present, you can do this in an organized way. You take the example, I'll share with you two quick stories about this. So one of our clients, Mark and Diana Hua, they're in San Diego, California. Their business is they do common area maintenance for homeowners associations. You know, the typical blue-collar type of service-based business. And we work with lots of blue-collar service businesses. And Mark had been running this company for over a decade. And he and Diana were so burnt out by the time we met them. Can you imagine? I mean, you've been running a company for over 10 years. It just gets old. And it was a good business. It had provided for him and for his family and for their son. And it had done good things in the community. I mean, it was a good business. But the business was completely reliant upon the two of them. He worked nights and weekends. All day long, he'd work in the business. At night and on the weekends, they would take care of the administrative, the paperwork, and all those other business stuff they just didn't have time for in the day. They were growing at a very steady clip of 4% per year. Working together to put into place the systems, the team, and the controls, making better strategic choices of where to focus his effort. What were the results within the first 12 months? Or first of all, he had reinvigorated passion for the business. Why? He was no longer working nights and weekends. He had two other team members that he brought on. And before you say, well, gosh, what about the expense there? He grew his sales over 42% the first year. Prior to that, the fastest he'd ever grown was 4%. He literally tenfolded the growth rate. He went from $775,000 per year in sales when we met him, all the way up to over $1.1 million in sales that first year. The first time in company history they'd ever broken $1 million. But forgetting all the money aspect of it, most important of all, he actually now has a business that he enjoys owning. He loves it. He hasn't quite reached level 3. It's still reliant upon him in many ways, but he's out of most of the day-to-day operational part, and he's got systems that allow him to manage and scale the management of doing more work out there with more teams out there in the field. Plus, his Maui coach actually shared with him a very innovative way that he could scale by leveraging the staff of his vendors better than having him to have to hire. It was a really little-known way of doing it that Mark loved. It kept him from having to hire 2 or 3 other people, and he was so grateful for that. Another example, another story I'll share with you is this is Blake Schwank. Blake is a former Army officer, came out of the Army and started his IT services company. For years, he had struggled along with that, built it up to about a $450,000 per year business, stable, provided for him and for his wife and for their kids, the typical self-employed job, really. When we first met Blake, that's where he was. The business was him. No Blake, no business. Fast forward 3 years later, Blake has grown his company now to over $3 million a year in sales. The business is so much less reliant on him. Operationally, the business is down to very little reliance on him to produce the service of doing the IT work, to manage the admin, to manage the financial side. His biggest area that he still is actively involved with, and this is the next area of focus for us in the program, is how to scale his sales and marketing efforts so it's not just reliant on him doing most of the selling, that he's going to actually have to build forth the systems for how to generate leads and convert leads into paid sales and actually start bringing on sales and marketing staff. But he's now got the revenue where that makes sense. So for those of you that are service-based business owners, here's my final 2 takeaways for you. Number 1, regardless of where you are, you need to take steps now to intelligently reduce the reliance of your company on you. But don't just replace yourself on the one-legged stool of team. You've got to find more than just that. You've got to have the system and the controls part that helps empower a team member to do some of what you do. There are so many resources on this website at MauiMastermind.com exactly to do that. The second thing is you're going to have to focus on making smarter and better strategic decisions in your company, whether that be about how you do pricing or which markets you want to go after or which products and services should you really be focusing your company efforts on, the ones that give the most value in the marketplace and also the highest margins for you guys as well. And those strategic level decisions, I see it all the time in our business coaching program clients. It can literally make the difference between the first year of an extra $100,000, $500,000 or more in revenue or not, simply by making better strategic choices of focusing on those fewer but better things that really give you a magnified return. So I hope that you enjoy the work we do together here as part of the Maui community. Explore the site. And if we can ever be of service to you to help you scale and grow your service business, we'd love to talk with you about that. Matter of fact, I'll go one step further. We'll do a free coaching session with you. Provided your business qualifies for it, we'll sit down and have one of our coaching team members take 45 minutes to an hour to analyze your company with you to spot where are the real leverage points and how would they suggest sequencing how we would work together if we were doing this for you to grow your company. No obligation on either of our part. I encourage you to take a look at that. Just click on the business coaching program link on the main nav. But again, welcome to the Maui community, and I look forward to helping you scale and grow and build your service-based business as a business versus a self-employed job.